few months as the interim TEFAP coordinator. And so I'm just here to kind of give you updates in regards to TEFAP, and then obviously answer any questions that I can. It looks like in the chat there's an awful lot of questions as far as like how people are going to be dealing with distribution moving forward, and I'm happy to address that from a state level as well. To start with, I just want to talk a little bit about the Build Back Better supplemental TEFAP funds. The state of Wisconsin, just like every state across the country, received funds. And we were offered funds probably in the middle of summer. We took them, we received them in December, and we've started to distribute those funds. And those funds are meant to support the fresh and perishable foods that have been going out. So those foods started coming out in January, and they'll continue to go out through August. And we can talk about this more in the Q&A, but I would just like to say that I've been getting some feedback on those fresh and perishable products and the mixed produce boxes. I'm kind of curious to see what people, what their experiences have been with those boxes, positive or not positive. So if you're interested in putting things in the chat or talking to me directly during the Q&A, that would be great. The next thing I want to talk about is the Reach and Resiliency Grants. This is funding that we had offered to us, but it's by a request for application, which means each state is given an opportunity to apply. We put in an application. We're actually working with WISCAP, who does all of our food ordering, and a lot of you have probably dealt with at different times. We're working with the UW Extension, Feeding Wisconsin, thank you, Stephanie, and Hunger Task Force. We all put together an application for this grant, and it is meant to go out to, the whole idea of the grant is to reach areas that are considered remote, rural, tribal, or low income, or otherwise known as underserved areas. And the funding can be meant to do a lot of different things, but basically it's meant to support extending infrastructure into these areas. So we put together a proposal for that, and we'll hear back in early March if we received it. And if we did, I will be happy to give you more information on the next call about how we'll proceed with those funds and all the great opportunities we're going to have to work with you guys and more folks across the state. The next thing I want to talk about is the Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement Program, otherwise known as LFPA. That's another grant opportunity that we've been offered. It's intended to expand local and regional markets. It's emphasis on underserved farmers and ranchers. Now, one state agency or tribal nation per state can apply for this grant. So we are working with the Department of Agriculture right now. They're going to probably be taking the lead on this grant opportunity, and TEFAP will support and be involved in the efforts. This is a total of $400 million for funding for this. So it's a great opportunity. Again, we're interested, though, in getting feedback from folks across the state. So LFPA is holding DADCAP is holding a listening session for LFPA. It is going to be February 15th from 1 to 2:30. We'll make sure to include a link to this in our notes on the Feeding Wisconsin website. But basically, it's DADCAP inviting folks like yourself to join in. And the things they want to get feedback on, I mean, there's going to be a Q&A, and they're also going to provide a lot of information about the grant. But they want to have questions answered like, what current barriers do you see in developing local supply chains to serve food security efforts? Are you already attempting to do these things in your area? How are some ways that we can shape our local supply chain currently? So wanting to get feedback from everybody so we can put ideas together that obviously are giving voice to everybody across the state and their thoughts and maybe some already like great things you're doing currently in that area. And then that money mainly is meant to go towards food procurement. But there are additional funds that can help go to things like distribution, holding of foods, all sorts of different things past the actual procurement of food. So it can go to support some infrastructure needs as well. But primarily, it's meant to procure food from local farmers who are otherwise not being addressed right now. And then as far as I mentioned at the beginning, the TEFAP recommendations, I'm looking more as far as distribution goes and any additional policies that TEFAP has had in place, I'm happy and interested in talking and addressing questions more directly, but I can tell you we're giving the same messaging now that we've been giving through all of this. We recommend that you contact your local public health department. They are the ones that can direct you specifically to your area on what you should do. We encourage you to continue to, be safe and follow the guidelines that are provided. Now, if for some reason you feel like outdoor distribution is not going to work for you anymore, then that is something you need to address with the local public health department. You also might want to discuss this with your EFO in your area and make sure they are aware of what you're doing, and you maybe work on a plan together of how you're going to transition your distribution. But I'm happy to address more your questions more directly if you have additional questions on that. And that's all I have. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jennifer. So I'll jump into some other updates, mostly in the way of benefits programs, nutrition programs, and then we'll open it up to questions and discussions that you all might have. So to start with, I'll give some quick food share updates. These are very similar to last month's, that those enrolled in food share currently are still receiving the additional emergency allotment benefits that have been issued with the Recovery Act. That will continue forward until the federal public health emergency is ended. And we anticipate that we'll know more about if there's an extension past April in March. So we'll hear in March if the public health emergency order will be extended beyond April. But for now and until then, every month, individuals are receiving either the maximum benefit for their household size, and if they had previously been receiving that maximum benefit for their household size, if their income was as in that way made them eligible for that maximum benefit, then they're receiving at least an additional $95 on top of that due to the public health emergency order. In the month of February, individuals are receiving that additional benefit on February 13th, so this weekend. And I know that that's an important piece of information for pantry coordinators, as oftentimes when folks receive that additional benefit, they might be able to, support their own food needs for a little bit before they show up to the pantries, as many are still maybe not receiving an adequate benefit to get through their month. And when we do see that emergency health order go away and folks no longer receive that emergency benefit, we will see many individuals, including seniors and folks with disabilities who have, before that emergency allotment are receiving something closer to the minimum benefit. We'll see many families go from the maximum of $250 a month down to the minimum of $20 a month. So there's going to be a big drop, and that's something that for the network of folks here will be really important for you to understand when that will hit those families. I imagine that we'll see a big shift in the need from emergency food networks at that time. Pandemic EBT is another benefit that is rolling out for this school year. So Wisconsin has an approved state plan at this point, and the first issuance of benefits for school-age children who have missed some school. So this iteration of the program, differently than the last, is going to be based on the actual days missed for individual children. So the benefit's going to be far less than it was in the last school year. Families will receive benefits for the August through October time period that students may have missed in-person class and therefore school meals. They'll receive that issuance on March 5th. So families will receive $7.10 for each day that a student was out per student. So if they were out because classes were held virtually, if they were out because they were quarantined because of COVID, for any of those reasons, students will receive, again, that $7.10 per day out of class and per student. Families will then receive, it's going to be this sporadic distribution of funds. So then again, on April 9th, they'll receive benefits for November and December. On May 14th, they'll receive benefits for January and February, and then they'll wrap up with an issuance in June and July. I'll have those dates all in the running notes, and I put a link to our Pantry Network engagement page on our website that has all of the running notes from previous meetings, and I'll be posting these to follow the call today, so you can see that all on paper. Again, it's going to look very different for families this time around. Families were receiving hundreds of dollars of benefits last year. That's not going to necessarily be the case this year. I don't know that many schools were virtual to that extent in this school year, so families might be anticipating more than they're going to receive. So that's something just to note on your end. Schools also have to submit the data on the number of days that students were out in order for families to receive benefits. So DHS is working directly with school districts to make sure that they're entering that information, and schools will have to enter that information before February 18th for that first issuance. So there might be other reasons why families who should be eligible for benefits might not receive them. So if you have folks come to you and question why they're not getting benefits, that might also be the reason that a district did not submit the information that they needed to for that family to receive benefits for the students. On a different note, many of you might remember that in fall of 2020, Feeding Wisconsin worked with some folks at Extension to issue a survey of pantry visitors. We did pull together a report based on those findings, and those are on our website. I will share a link here in the chat. Another follow-up is that we are wrapping up a supplement report. This is a supplemental report that we are going to make widely public. It's a report that will be highlighting some of the client perspective on their experience at pantries. I will share it's very positive, and also, of course, as many of you would expect, has some comments about quality, quantity, variety of foods. So it's all anonymous information. It does not name any pantry itself, but we do want to make that available to you all as the information was gathered from you all supporting that distribution. So I'll be sharing that in the notes of our on our notes page on the Pantry Network engagement page on our website, and can share the link to that once it's posted in next month's meeting. So I want you all to have access to that, but don't want to put that out on the front page of our website either, because it's really information meant for you all. So I'll be getting that to you to come. Two more quick notes. I mentioned last month and probably the month before that Governor Evers did announce a $30 million investment in a food security initiative, as he had done with CARES Act funds. This is ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds that are routed through DATCAP, 15 million of which routed through Feeding Wisconsin, and 15 million of which routed through Hunger Task Force. Those funds, 20 million of which are meant for food purchase that will be going out to pantries who are members of either network, and 10 million of which is for infrastructure. So I will share that from our network perspective, from our 6 food banks at Feeding Wisconsin. Each of our regional food banks is exploring the use of those funds, a portion of those funds in their local region, and they are proceeding with a plan for their own region. So if you are interested in have any infrastructure needs, please do reach out to your local food bank in your area. I'm happy to connect you to that if you'd like any connections. And my last update is that we are moving forward with our Hunger and Health Summit this year in person. It will be April 24th through the 26th at the Chula Vista and Wisconsin Dells. We're very excited to come together, and we will, of course, have some protocols in place, but looking forward to picking up where we left off a couple of years ago in creating a space for not just Pantry Network folks, but other folks interested in ending hunger and improving health. So we've always had a wide variety of attendance to that Hunger and Health Summit. We have public health folks, health systems folks, government agencies and staff, businesses, food systems. We have producers and logistics folks attend that. So we are excited to offer that once again. We'll be announcing the keynotes and registration by the end of next week. So please watch for that, and I'll have an email going out if you are on our Feeding Wisconsin newsletter list, or we'll have information posted on our website, and I will certainly share on the call next week and in the notes. So that wraps up my updates for this month. Just a reminder that we will be continuing to hold these calls the second Thursday of every month, and you can find more information on our website, Feeding Wisconsin. Under the Programs tab, there is a section called Pantry Network Engagement, and that's where you can find the running notes from all of these calls, as well as information on how to get these on your calendar if you register. With that, Jennifer, any other updates on your end before I open for questions or any thoughts? No. All right. So the floor is yours. Please feel free to use this time to ask any questions, provide any useful tips to other pantry coordinators, or any comments about what you'd like to see in these calls in the future. And Lisa has started off by raising her hand, and that might be a useful way to engage. So if you could either raise your hand if you're on the on a computer, or jump in if you're by phone, you can unmute yourself to speak in that way. So Lisa, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. You mentioned the $95 or however much it is extra that they're getting is going to be gotten to them by the 13th of February. Is that kind of the standard time of month that it goes out? Because that is really helpful information to have. Is it like always mid-month about that point?
It's always on a weekend, and it's typically the third weekend. I'm not certain why it's the second weekend this month. Those are always posted on the DHS website. So in the notes, I do have a link to what that website is for you all to check. It's always on a weekend, usually third, but for some reason this month, the second weekend. And it's always after their initial issuance. So they receive their standard benefits at the beginning of the month. And then this emergency allotment afterwards in the second issuance.
Great, thank you, because we've always had trouble figuring out when the food pantry was going to be busy. So this will really help. Thanks.
Yeah, I will include that DHS link in the chat as well as it's in the running notes. Any other questions related to the updates? Rob.
Could you just repeat those dates that you talked about when there's going to be the determination of the health emergency, and then also the switch from the maximum amount to sort of the minimum for different households depending? Could you just repeat that information?
We don't know that date yet. What we do know is the current public health emergency runs through mid-April. I want to say April 16th. Don't quote me on that. But the current public health emergency runs through April, and DHS has been updating the monthly details about the emergency allotment on a monthly basis. The emergency health order is always extended in 90-day increments. And the feds have to tell the state 30 days prior to the end of the public health emergency if it's going to end or if it's going to be extended. So by mid-March, we will know if they're going to extend the current public health emergency beyond mid-April for an additional 90 days. So those are the rough dates that I know. Other questions? Okay, if no other questions for Jennifer or I, then this is a time for you all to ask questions of each other. Are there any questions that you might have to, pick the brains of the other pantry coordinators on this call about the way you might be navigating plans to move back into indoor distribution, or any other thoughts. We did have one question here as you're thinking on that. Jennifer, could you clarify a bit more on the boxes beginning in January? This is a question from Terry.
I guess more information would be helpful. So
was that a global Wisconsin rollout or targeted? I assume
it's global. You mean, did everybody get access to the Fresh and Perishable program? Yes. So that came from the BBB funds, the Build Back Better funds. And each state was offered money, and they just had to accept. And as far as distribution goes, that's going to every EFO across the state. So everybody in the TEFAP network is being offered that opportunity. So just depends, if you've taken, when you're communicating with your EFO, if you've taken those additional foods. It's a lot like the bonus foods, right? You're going to get some fresh, the thing I mentioned specifically was the mixed produce boxes. And I was asking for feedback because we have had some feedback already. And so there's only been, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think 3 deliveries. And we've heard some good things and some things that were a little concerning. So I just want to get feedback from everybody as far as if they have any, feedback for me about what they've experienced on those mixed produce boxes, because it's always good, obviously, for us to know what is going on across the state. I hope that you guys would communicate. I know there's EFOs on the call as well as pantries. I'm assuming everybody's in good communications with each other, but thought this would be a good opportunity to bring that to light. But hearing nothing is good news, I think. So I hope that answered your question.
There's a comment that the brick food shelf has not been offered the fresh mixed boxes in Ashland and Bayfield. So Jennifer, as you mentioned, that's
okay.
Is it based on region and EFO's acceptance of that product?
Yes, it is. It's off, it depends. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's another question of what is in the boxes. Lots of questions about the boxes.
Yep.
And who has had the delivery thus far that you might know?
I mean, a lot of different places across the whole state have received the boxes. What's in them is it's produce. So currently, the last 3 deliveries have been potatoes, oranges, tomatoes, and cabbage. And some people have had really positive experiences and others have not. But just to be fair, this has been an interesting winter overall for food issues. We're experiencing a lot of kind of just crazy things happening, frozen deliveries,
And it's not real.
lots of different issues have been coming up. So,
hi, this is Marty Lee.
hi, Marty.
Hi. So, always grateful for food. Let me start with that. Much of the box was good, but we got some of the worst looking apples I've seen.
Yeah.
Okay, so just so you know, we just pulled them. Okay.
Yeah.
They were not. I mean, when you have a product where half the bag is dead, really bruised. I mean, you just touch it and your thumb goes in.
Yeah.
It's just not. So we just pulled them. Life doesn't end, and so I am grateful, but they were not of the highest quality.
Thanks for that feedback.
And
yeah.
I took pictures.
Okay. Yeah, because always good to take pictures. Yeah, because what the feedback we're getting from the produce suppliers is that they're receiving there's been some hard freezes. For example, Florida's had some hard freezes. We've gotten some oranges that were pretty mushy. They all had to be thrown out. So we're just having to readjust and work with our vendors and the USDA and say that there needs to be a better examination of the product before it
Yeah.
gets sent out to our communities. We're not delivering food like that, right?
Yeah.
Anything that we would not want to buy in a grocery store, we don't expect anybody else at our pantries to take either. So
Yeah, and it does have to have some whole life. I mean,
yeah, it's supposed to have
really.
it's supposed to have 2 weeks. It's supposed to
Yeah,
have 2 weeks
it's
past your delivery.
yeah, and it's coming in like that. So
Yeah.
and it wasn't. I don't believe it was mishandled.
No.
At least in our in the Wisconsin network, I don't. I mean, the pallets are coming in nicely wrapped.
Yep.
The rest of the food is great. I mean, the cabbages look nice.
Good.
You know, so I mean, tomatoes are like tomatoes anytime this time of year.
I
They're
know
cardboard.
that's what I thought when I saw tomatoes in there anyway. I was like, well, I don't know. Tomatoes never are good in winter, right? So,
No.
I don't know. I just don't buy them in winter myself, but
But I thought, I mean, and so we didn't see the oranges. So far we've just been in the apple moment.
Yep. Okay, well, I appreciate that feedback, and I'm sorry that you had to experience that, Marty.
It is just part of life. We just pull them and keep smiling. You didn't.
Okay.
I think I let Lisa know, my
Okay.
EFO, just so she was aware of it.
Yeah,
But
I'll reach out to her about that too, because you know, we need to get those commodity loss reports and make sure we
Actually-
have that stuff on file.
Actually, for Lisa, I did not get mine from Lisa. I got mine from Feed America through
Oh,
Cat.
okay.
Okay. So,
Okay.
but I let Lisa and I let both of them know.
Yeah.
The good news is I get it delivered either way, but it's kind of wherever it's coming from, I'm happy.
Yeah. Then I might have already heard about it indirectly because feeding. Yep, we've been in communications with Feeding America. So,
Yeah,
but
that's
thank you for that.
probably-
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, you've had your hand raised. Oh, I think you're muted.
Thanks, Stephanie. Sorry about that. And I put the basis of my question in the chat, but let me just play this back to make sure I understand it right. That if we want to move from outdoor shopping to indoor shopping, that we should work with our local public health official, and then with for us it would be a Community Action Coalition. Is that correct?
That is exactly correct.
Okay.
Yeah. We
And-
can only just provide you with recommendations and guidance. You know, we can't tell you exactly what to do, but that we can say contact your local health department.
Okay. So perfect. Here's the guidance maybe.
Mhm.
One of the things, and I don't, maybe somebody has asked this question before, but if we said to our clients, we're gonna return to indoor shopping for those folks that have been vaccinated, and proof of vaccination will be required for you to come inside. That's not to preclude somebody who's not vaccinated, but their option would be to stay outside and less choice. Is that acceptable, advisable? I'll leave it at that.
I mean, as everybody has to have access to the food. So as long as you're able to still provide food to anybody that comes up for service, then it's, you know, then that's what has to happen. You know, as long as you are able to provide people with access to the food, not dependent on if they're coming in or outside, that is our stipulation, or, you know, it's a civil rights issue, right? Everybody needs access to the food. So
Okay.
that's all I can tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Abby has her hand raised. Abby, did we lose you? All right, we may have lost Abby for now. Any other questions or discussion points?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, it stopped working. Okay. So one thing that we did for our pantry, I was just wondering if anyone else did this as well. But we are outside distribution. People pull in. There's not a lot of choice at the moment. We took a poll over a couple of weeks and asked people if they would prefer more choice and going indoors, like once we do move that, versus being outside through the drive-through. And the overwhelming numbers, people above 60, I think it was still 80% chose to be outside, pulling through less choice. And for people under 60, it was 90% or more chose to be outside as well. I'm just wondering if anyone else has done anything like that. It just was eye-opening because I thought more people would want choice. But I just, yeah, looking at that and seeing maybe a hybrid model of sorts, but a lot of people don't want to be inside, even pending lower COVID numbers. In our area, at least.
I appreciate you sharing that. That really surprises me. I would never have thought of that.
It surprised me a lot. The older folks, I get it why it's a higher number for them, but yep.
I want to jump in here if I can. It's Melissa from West Cap. We actually found the same situation. We're finding that we're serving more seniors and the more new seniors that came out. I think they just like that model where they're not waiting outside in line, having to walk in, you know, it's hard on their bodies and stuff. But my concern is for 22 years that I've been working in this, you know, food area, we worked our butts off trying to move pantries from the old model of here, you take what we're giving you and just deal with it versus here, we have food that you can choose. We want to make you have the best choices for what's best for your family. So I'm a little concerned about this whole going back just because of the fact that the mindset all of a sudden starts changing, not only with some of our clients, but when you look throughout the state, especially a lot of the smaller pantries that are finding that this is an easier model for them. It's kind of like going back in prehistoric days. So I don't know where I sit on this, but I have seen too that people who like to come in quick, get their food and get out quick, this has been a good model for them. So I have a feeling we're going to see some hybrid models popping up around the state amongst all of our partners and our agencies, just trying to adapt to what people's preferences are.
One of the things when we were doing the excuse me, when we were doing the inside model, it had the benefits of we spent a lot more time interviewing them and we, you know, checked their identification and all this stuff much more thoroughly than we can do now. And they also had the option of, while they were waiting, they could view different displays we would have of various resources and things that were available through the pantry and through the church. So that would be, you know, we've been looking forward to going back to that. So this really surprised. I'm trying to, in my mind, envision if we, you know, we're told that we had to go back to collecting more information about the people and checking their ID and everything like that, how we could do that in an outside format. And that would be interesting to think through.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm sorry, I'll make it brief. I would just like to say thank you for bringing that up because that is something obviously to think about, right? At some point, it hopefully is going to be, you know, we're going to be in a better position and people are going to be looking at all of these options more closely. And then what that also means, once the public health emergency ends, some of the TEFAP rules will be shifting back to pre-COVID guidance. So that means there's going to have to be that closer attention paid and to that intake process and gathering more information again and so forth. So, you know, those are things to think about when you're doing indoor or outdoor service. So it was a good point to bring up. Thank you.
This is Rochelle with Marquette County Food Bank. So I did the same survey about 6 months ago when we got our new computerized system. So all of our members actually have a business card that has a barcode with their name on it that we just scan, so we don't have to do paper at all. And one of the questions I asked is, do you like to drive up or would you like to go back in person? And 90% of them all wanted to keep the drive up. They liked it. They like not having to get out of their vehicles, tote their kids or push carts and all that. So we will be keeping the drive up in Marquette County until they say different, but.
So you know what, that's really interesting. This is Mark from the Sun Prairie Food Pantry. Great discussion. I agree with Melissa. I would have never thought that to be the case. And I've been through it enough to know that, you know, the whole move towards choice. And so it's kind of makes me anxious because our entire operations is set up for indoor shopping and choice. And we invested in that concept and we can't wait to let people back in. So so right now we go out and we're like car hops and we try to provide some choice, but it works. However, I'm thinking that if we ask people, would you you can come in and you can shop, or you don't have to come in, but what you will receive is a pre-packed selection of food. Because right now it's kind of something in between. And I just wonder then if people would go, yeah, because we do see a lot of food that we give out come right back to us. That's dry goods, that's food that that's prepackaged and we give to them. There's a lot of food fatigue that we see that food coming back in. So it makes me wonder, maybe we're comparing choice outside to choice inside. I'd rather stay in my car and have you bring it to me versus no choice outside and choice inside. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but I'm really wrestling with it because, we're on a path to trying to open as soon as we can. And I don't know when that is yet.
John I think you had your hand up. Did you still have a question? Give John a second, and then.
Yeah, I think Jennifer already answered that because we're using an outside model too, and one of the things that came to my mind as we were discussing this is when it comes time for those TEFAP application renewals, it'd be incredibly difficult to do that outside. You almost need to have it, inside in person to get that done. And I was going to ask Jennifer if she knew if the state had an idea when those COVID protocols are kind of going to go away and we're back to doing that again.
We're following the public health emergency. So as soon as the public health emergency is no longer in place, then we will revert back to our pre-COVID guidelines, so that those forums and everything else, the 300% threshold will drop down to 200% again, or well, it wasn't 200%, but we are dropping it back to where we're going to drop it down to, and any other guidance that we've provided. And so we can't, everything is always just dependent on that. And as we all know, the public health emergency just keeps getting extended for good reason, right? So I can't unfortunately give you any more information than that. But you can know when you hear that the public health emergency ends, you'll be getting more guidance from me to remind you to go back to pre-COVID guidelines of, and rules and regulations around TEFAP that we've changed. So.
And Jennifer, when that time comes closer, will we have enough advance notice so we can, communicate that with our clients, transition into it?
Well, like Stephanie said earlier, we find out 30 days before. So you would, as soon as I know, and to be honest, frequently I find things out pretty close to the time that you find things out as far as like public information, right? So you'll be hearing from me probably when you're seeing it on the news, to be honest. But I will absolutely get that information out as quickly as I can, so everybody has plenty of time to make decisions and get things in place and spread information. Yeah.
I dropped a link to the public health emergency order page, and you'll see the list of the renewals that have happened. And again, we'll learn mid-March if there'll be another renewal issued, or if the current renewal that will be ending in mid-April will actually end. In the queue we have Donna and then Chris.
Hello, everybody. I'm with Mark. We're also doing outdoor distribution, and we would be transitioning indoors, but we are building a brand new warehouse here in Wausau. We're breaking ground next month, and with that intersecting with whether or not the public health emergency gets extended or not, it doesn't make sense for us to bring folks inside because we're going to be packing up this building, moving, and all of that. But I will say, I wanted to share some insights that we learned with our outdoor distribution. And the things we learned during COVID is really helping us to plan for our new building. We are going to be hybrid because we noticed a significant uptick in people that had never been here before, people that probably should have been coming to us, but didn't, as most of you know, for, stigma and all those reasons. And the ease of being able to drive up, get a box of food, a really big, robust box of food, made it easier for those people to get the help that they should have probably been receiving previously. And people really do like, in our situation here too, they enjoy the drive up, but we have folks that want to come inside. And so our new building, our new campus will have an indoor shopping experience. It's based on safe and healthy. They'll be able to come as often as they want. And then there's also going to be the hybrid. But, to address the intake process situation that I know a lot of us are struggling with, part of the grant that we're submitting for this round of monies right now is for the scanner system with the barcoded cards, so that we can quickly and easily do that both outdoors and in. So that's kind of what our solution is going to be for that. And we have, oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it now. St. Joe's. They do a phenomenal job with the intake, with the scanners and the cards, and we're going to be using that as well. It's not as personal, but with Safe and Healthy, we'll have people shopping for those guests that come inside. So just wanted to share that. But I think for us, and I think most of you have seen that too, you've probably seen people who are, we're really helping to fight food insecurity by giving people this easier option for those who probably maybe would not have reached out to us. So that's a good thing.
Chris, I'll have you jump in, and then we'll touch on the question that Jules had listed in the chat.
Hi, this is Chris. I'm at the St. Vincent de Paul in Madison. And I think we owe it to the people that we're serving to respect what we've learned during the pandemic. And that is, if they want to get in and out more quickly, that their time is valuable, that we respect that. So I believe the way forward is actually to do e-pantry, where you can give people the choice to choose what they want and then come pick it up, while still, having, if there are people that actually want to go into the building and take that amount of time, to choose their items, that's great. We'll have volunteers here for that. But I think what we've missed all along is the respect of people's time. So that's how I'd like to move forward. I'm not interested in moving back to it taking an hour and a half for people to go through a food pantry. So.
Thank you, Chris. Can I ask, just in case others are interested, how you are going about your e-pantry? Are you using a specific system that's making that easy on you?
Right now, we're just actually using a Google form, but we are working with a couple of people that are developing a website that called Pantry Pal that hopefully anybody at some point will be able to use. It's just a matter of getting that developed. It's kind of in the process right now. So, but I am a huge proponent of ePantry for sure.
Thank you. Jennifer, are you willing to answer the question that Jules posed in the chat? Let me see if I can get to that myself. Can the TEFAP application become available online where persons can complete them on a tablet? The idea is that they could continue with outside distribution and then have somebody complete that application from their car.
I don't see any reason why, if the individual pantries can, figure out ways to do that, and that the information can still be stored securely. Those are our only, it's just like paper, right? However you guys decide to work it within your pantry, you just need to be collecting the data that we're asking for, which is not that much really. And then actually, it's always erred on the side of less is more for this program, and then it just needs to be stored in a way that it's confidential and safe. So I hope that as long as you can follow the guidelines that we provide, we're happy to support whatever works for your pantry.
Courtney, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with everyone, we're up here in Rhinelander, so we're the Rhinelander Area Food Pantry, and we have been using an online order form since July. We have about 30% of our customers who utilize online order form. We've also offered online registration, and we're using a free program online called JotForm. It is also health protected information, so we can keep all of that information secure. We've had about 90 new customers register since July. Some are return customers that we haven't seen for a couple of years as well. So right now it's working out fairly well for us. And we used it primarily to address what Mark was talking about earlier, was the return of food items. So really we give customers the option to pre-order dry goods specifically based on their household size. And then we get a kind of an idea ahead of time if they're interested in what perishables. So, and it's worked out really well. And again, it's JotForm. So, and we post a link to the form on our Facebook page as well as our website for our 3 distributions a week, and it works out pretty easily. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Any other knowledge to share on e-pantry or online ordering, or any other questions for one another?
This is Jenny from Clinton Food Pantry down at the southern part of the state. And I'm very interested in hearing all of these ways that you are making hybrid situations, or how you are going to handle going forward with outside versus inside. As a director, I appreciated the inside method in the fact that I got to know my clients a lot better. I got to know more about their families, and so what other needs that they might have beyond food that I could connect them with. And also we had a large area of brochures and information on other resources in our area. That has not been so possible with the outside pickups, though when we did a survey back at the end of summer when COVID numbers were down, all of our clients, except for one, said that they preferred to do this drive up because it was so much faster. So if anybody has ideas, and maybe not for today, but for next time, on how you are showcasing resources for people, or how you are having enough time to kind of connect a little more with them in the outdoor system, that would be really appreciated.
That's a great question. I think one question on my mind is, how are we framing services that are keeping in mind the client's needs? So I think, like Chris mentioned, valuing time, valuing ease of access. But I think part of that we kind of lose, as was just mentioned, is how do we connect folks to other resources? And I think that's an important question to ask. We have about 15 SNAP or food share outreach specialists across the state that in pre-COVID times would visit pantries, talk with folks while they're waiting in line, and assist them with food share applications on the spot. And I think that's something on our minds, is how do we provide that same level of service to folks coming through your doors without maybe having that same kind of face time with them. So I'd love to explore that more, as how are we making sure that we're using this point of service as an opportunity to connect to other services without expecting folks to take up a lot of their time, unless that's a service they're interested in receiving. We just have a couple more minutes left. Thank you all so much for the questions and conversations. This was really helpful to me, which I know is not the goal of the call, but really I appreciate getting these conversations going and having a space for you all to share the knowledge and expertise that you all have in coming up with these solutions. So I hope that we can continue having these sorts of conversations on this call. Jennifer, any close out on your end?
Nope, just to reiterate or I guess agree with you. I think this is a really great opportunity for everybody to collaborate, and it helps me a lot in what I do too, to just get feedback directly from all of you. And again, just want to say I really like actually having the face-to-face contact too. It's nice rather than the phone call. So thanks again, Stephanie, for setting that up.
Of course, my pleasure. I'm grateful. This was, we moved to the video conferencing because of feedback from you all. So I'm glad we could make that work. I have a quick question in the chat: is when and where will these recordings be shared? I will get the call notes up as soon as possible. I think this week I'll be able to get them up before the end of the day. In general, please expect that they'll be up the following week. It takes some time for there to be some rendering of the video. So I'll get that posted the week following the call. And you'll find them here on our website once again on the Pantry Network page. If you go towards the bottom, there's a previous Pantry call notes and recordings. Actually, if you had checked this website in the past, I actually moved it to a separate page because this list was getting pretty long. So I'll have the written notes there for you to click on, and also the recording of this conversation. Thank you all. And just a reminder that our next call will be, I don't actually have that up. Give me 1 second. It'll be March 10th, same time, same place. So looking forward to seeing you all there. Take good care, and please feel free to reach out to Jennifer or I if you have any questions in the meantime. I'm grateful for your time and all the knowledge that you've shared today. Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.